Hello YouTube, Kemo Sabi here, coming at you with another video. So this one's off of National Post webpage, and a write-up by Camille Bains, off from the Canadian Press, published on July 11th, 2018, at 2:52 PM EDT time, last updated July 11th, 2018, 6:55 PM EDT time. And here we have it. Fisheries Department says more staff on waters to protect Canada's whales. New rules to protect whales, dolphins, and porpoises has come into effect in Canada, and the Department of Fisheries and Oceans says it is in the process of ensuring more officers and patrol vessels are available to enforce them. A female resident orca whale breaches while swimming in Puget Sound near Bains Bridge Island, as seen from her federally permitted research vessel Saturday, January 18, 2014. Eliane Thompson / the Associated Press on that piece. Vancouver. New regulations to protect whales, dolphins, and porpoises are in effect for all coasts in Canada as the Department of Fisheries and Oceans works to ensure more officers and patrol vessels are available to enforce the rules. Adam Burns, Director General of Fisheries Resource Management, said the number of officers deployed to keep people and boats away from marine mammals have yet to be determined. Extensive consultations with the whale watching industry indicated support for the regulations in order to keep the animals in areas where tourists flock to see them, he said. As of Tuesday, people and vessels must maintain a minimum distance of 100 meters from most whales, dolphins, and porpoises to protect them from human disturbance, which is now more clearly defined to include feeding the marine mammals, swimming with them, removing them from the group, or going between a mother and its calf. At least 400 meters must be maintained from threatened or endangered whales, dolphins, and porpoises in the St. Lawrence estuary, a critical beluga habitat. A distance of 200 meters is required to protect those marine mammals in the Saguenay-St. Lawrence Marine Park in Quebec. And the same distance must be kept from killer whales, including the endangered southern resident orcas off BC's coast. In parts of the Church Estuary and the Seal River in Manitoba, people and vessels are required to stay at least 50 meters from the belugas that frequent the areas in summer, Burns said, adding that will also allow for safe boating. The Fisheries Department will use a combination of public education and penalties to enforce the regulations, which up to now have been voluntary guidelines. The Pacific Whale Watch Association, which represents over 30 members in Canada and the United States, has said its operators voluntarily imposed 200-meter viewing limit on southern residents last year and slowed their vessels in known whale areas to cut noise. The association has requested that the previous 100-meter viewing distance remain from the up to 850 transient northern and offshore killer whales that are also present in the West Coast waters. However, Burns says it's a challenge to tell the difference between killer whales in the water. The 200-meter approach distance is applied to all killer whales to ensure that the protection is in place, in particular for the southern residents' population, he said, adding the regulations are supported by scientific studies suggesting the distance will help reduce noise and vessel interference with whale foraging activities. The distance aligns with the current American limit of 200 yards, about 183 meters. Christine Wilhelmsen, Executive Director of the Georgia Strait Alliance, one of the 4 environmental groups that participated in consultations, said it has taken over a decade to come up with the recommendations despite mounting scientific evidence, which now suggests 400 meters would better protect southern resident orcas. Our federal government just dragged its feet for a very long time, she said. They just didn't want to impose restrictions on any industry, and finally they have, because now we're desperately in need of regulations to protect the orcas. Wilhelmsen said the groups called on the Fisheries Department to close the Chinook salmon fishery in January to key feeding areas, but the closure did not happen until June. Chinook is the favorite meal of resident killer whales. The closure that will last until the end of September applies to the parts of the southern Gulf Islands, portions of John D. Fuca Strait, and the areas around the mouth of Fraser River, while the coast-wide harvest of Chinook has been reduced to by 25 to 30%. Paul Courtrill, Marine Mammals Coordinator for the Fisheries Department Pacific Region, said the southern resident population has dwindled to 76 whales, and the regulations along the Chinook closures are intended to protect the endangered species. He said Canada's regulations, which apply to all cetaceans, have now gone beyond those in the United States because of their national scope on both the East Coast and the West Coast. This applies to humpback whales, gray whales, harbor porpoises, and white-sided dolphins, and that's not the case in the United States, he said. The regulations include the requirement to report to the Fisheries Department any incident of a vessel accidentally striking a mammal or when it becomes entangled in fishing gear, Cotterill said. Under the Fisheries Act, anyone who disturbs marine mammals could be fined up to $100,000 or a maximum of $500,000, $500,000 for a criminal offense, Courtrill said. And there you have it, everybody. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button. That'd be awesome. And leave me with some comments. That'd be great. Thanks a lot, everybody. Kemo, Sabi out, and we'll see you in the next one.